What y'all listening to?
Limelight Highlight Podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. As always, I am your host with the most, Jonathan Rosario. As always, we'll start with the upcoming events. So this weekend, we got a ton of promotion for this event, and here goes another. The Block is back. Our favorite nonprofit organization is having another lovely event, July 27th, this Saturday. Come join us at Rivera Recreation Center for the Block's Peace and Play Day, starting at 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. They'll be having advocates speaking up against and about their experience with street violence, promoting positivity. There'll be a DJ with free meals for all the kiddos in attendance. So if you want more information on what the Block is all about, go visit their website at www.theblockgivesback.org, where you can see all their merch, find out what events are going down, and a little more about all they do. Plus, I have the honor of being a featured sponsor for this event, so if you want to support both the podcast and the Block, you can kill two birds with one stone by showing up this Saturday. Best of all, no ticket needed, just pull up and have a good old time. And last but not least, for the ladies looking for a little more encouragement or inspiration, be sure to check out thequeencorner.com for all updates and information where to get your tickets to another lovely event that I happily have the honor of sponsoring, Babes Who Brunch, a woman's empowerment mixer. The tickets are $25. The event's September 15th, and be sure to check that out. Check out the website and get your tickets before it is too late. Now on to the podcast. This is another week that I didn't involve a poll simply because there was just so much going on. You know, I was too excited to share with you the stories that I'm about to share this week. I had an extremely eventful weekend. This past weekend was San Diego's 50th Comic-Con celebration. I know everybody's heard of Comic-Con, so I won't go into too much detail with that, but I got a ton of free stuff. Swag bags, did a whole bunch of panels with, got to see some exclusive premieres, a bunch of guest speakers and hosts and things of that nature. I'm a big nerd at heart. I love comic books, DC, Marvel, all the other art and original stuff that people like to come up with. Some highlights. I met the comedian Gabriel Iglesias, also known as Fluffy. I got an autographed pin from him, and we got to take a picture, my wife and I. I got to be a fanboy and take pics with Dominic Purcell. And for those who don't know, he's also known as Heatwave, or more normally known as Mick Rory from DC Legends. He was like finishing up a meal, so yeah, I had to be that guy. And yeah, he's just as grumpy as his character, but still very cool. He was cool enough to let us take pics, and he didn't smile, but that's okay. I got to attend a live podcast actually today, hosted by Dan Fogler. And if you're not familiar with the name, he's the main character on that comedy movie a while ago called Balls of Fury, or the more recent character Jacob Kowalski in The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I love those movies. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan too. And it was cool. I actually got to ask him a question that I'm hoping is going to be featured on his next podcast when it releases. And hopefully I'll get the audio for that, and I'll put it on the podcast so you guys could hear me on another podcast. It was cool because after I got to ask him a question, he gave me tickets to a 4XD movie. It's basically like you guys ever been on a studio, like not a studio, but like what's the word I'm looking for? Amusement park. And you can go on those rides where it's basically a movie, but the seats move. You get water splashed in your face, some air and stuff like that. It's like a real intuitive movie. So I thought that was really cool. I got to also actually, one of his guests for that podcast was, what's his name? Cooper Andrews. For those who aren't familiar with that name, he plays the foster dad in Shazam. He's also Jerry in The Walking Dead. He was in a bunch of other movies like The Den of Thieves with 50 Cent and stuff like that. Big Samoan dude. He was super chill. He was with his wife. He didn't mind taking pictures at all. So I was fanboying out like crazy. My favorite person that I had the pleasure of meeting was Edgardo Miranda-Rodriguez. He's also going to be the main story for this episode of the podcast, but we're going to put that one on pause because before we get into that story, there's another story I want to share before, just a really quick one about a company that had a little booth. Well, it's more like a big booth in the center of the convention center that I thought should be promoted a little bit. And this one caught my eye because it just looked like a bunch of little vehicles, kind of sitting around. And it's by this company. And the company's called Magic Wheelchair. Now, the reason I'm bringing them up is because kind of what they do, what caught my eye in the first place. Excuse me. And that is they build epic costumes for kids in wheelchairs at no cost to families. And when I say epic, I mean like legit epic. Like the Batmobile epic or the race car from Wreck-It Ralph, that little girl's race car epic. Yeah, they build these little, or in some cases, not so little molds, and they make them look like the real thing around these wheelchairs. In a more inclusive world that we're moving towards, I thought this company definitely deserves some much needed props for what they do. We have a lot of anti-bullying stuff going on. We have more, don't make fun of people who either are handicapped or, just more insensitive things. We're being more sensitive as a society. And I think that is a good thing. Some people take it over the top, but that's another topic for another conversation for another day. So this company actually started with a guy named Ryan Weimer. And according to his website, if you guys want to check that out, you can visit www.magicwheelchair.org. He's a father of 5, and his first son was diagnosed at 9 months with spinal muscular atrophy, also known as SMA. I can only imagine the lifestyle change that would bring to any family, let alone a family with a father of 5, So 5 years ago, Ryan and his colleagues set up a project. So when his son first got his wheelchair, is when they kind of set the project into motion. But in 2008, this is where the idea kind of sparks. So it's around Halloween in 2008, and he asked his son what he wanted to be for Halloween. And his kid actually told him he wanted to be a pirate. Not so difficult, pretty cool. So after, a bunch of brainstorming, he thinks to himself, what does a pirate need out of anything? He needs a pirate ship, right? So he started brainstorming and he come up with ways to design a pirate ship to build around his son's wheelchair. Needless to say, it came out pretty good. His son loved it. And it actually even made the front page of the newspaper. So he got to go around in his pirate ship that his dad built for him and get a bunch of candy. And that's basically when the idea, and that's how Magic Wheelchair started. It's a great way to bring attention to spinal muscular atrophy, or, SMA, as well as MD. And for those who don't know that acronym, it's muscular dystrophy. And ultimately, helping other kids feel just as included and normal as any other. I thoroughly enjoyed the concept of this company, as well as all the attentions and things that they're doing to help a ton of families with children that have these diseases. You can only imagine how hard it must be on both the kid and the family to not be able to do things that everybody else can do. Just because you're bound to a wheelchair doesn't mean you have to live a life that isn't as fulfilling or fun or eventful. You'll definitely be the life of the party if you have one of these. But if you guys like to get involved, as I said before, I want to provide you guys with as much information as possible to get in contact with these people to see how you can help. You can visit, like I said before, www.magicwheelchair.org, and on the top menu there's a list. There's a list you can select, and on one of those lists, there's a drop down and it says ways to give. This will take you to a link, and it'll show you what they do with your donation, and where you can donate. It'll list a bunch of different places and ways you can donate. So I'll put that in the show notes for your convenience. So don't worry if you missed it. Now, for our final topic of the day, this story comes from the heart, and it hits home in a pretty major way. Edgardo Miranda-Rodriguez is a writer at Marvel Entertainment. He's an editor-in-chief at Daryl Makes Comics, LLC. He's the art director and owner at Somos Arte and Studio Edgardo Creative Services. And most importantly, he is the creator of La Borinqueña. For those who don't know, that is a new and original comic book character that has grown into a cultural phenomenon and nationally recognized as the symbol of Puerto Rican patriotism, social justice, and equality for all. La Borinqueña is an original character and patriotic symbol represented in a classic superhero story. Puerto Ricans are a very prideful people, and this comic can attest to how proud we are as a people. It was inspired by the national anthem of Puerto Rico, which is La Borinqueña. It was introduced in 2016 as at the Puerto Rican Day Parade in New York City. Edgardo is actually a New York City native. He calls himself a New Rican. For those on the East Coast, I know you guys heard of that before. Those who've never heard that term, you can see why. Puerto Rican and from New York. So her comic is mainly deals with political issues, such as voter rights and climate change and police accountability, kind of all the things that you're seeing in the social climate today. For those who don't know, Puerto Rico is a territory of the U.S. You do not need a passport to visit PR. And the people of Puerto Rico are U.S. citizens. They're born with a social security number and a U.S. birth certificate. It says Puerto Rico on there, but it's for the U.S. The only thing that the people of Puerto Rico can't do, as any other U.S. citizen in a state can do, is vote for who's president. It is one of those things, what is the word? You can sign up and be a part of the military, but you cannot vote for your chief and commander in chief. It is basically taking that term taxation without representation to a literal meaning. Besides that, there are a ton of other laws and taxes and restrictions that cause Puerto Rico and the people of Puerto Rico to suffer due to legislation that they can't vote on. So where's the justice in that, But that's not what we're focused on today. Today I'm highlighting Edgardo and his comic because of how big pop culture has become, especially with superhero movies. We have shows and actual comics. There was, on the first day of Comic-Con, over 140,000 people in this convention center. That's just to attest on how big comics are, how big the superhero world is, and what everybody's focused on, especially with Marvel. And this one stands out not only because it's representing Puerto Rico, but Edgardo is using his platform to bring attention to all the injustices and wrongs that have been done unto Puerto Rico. In 2017, Hurricane Maria struck the Caribbean and it hit Puerto Rico really hard, taking 4,675 lives from Puerto Rico. 4,675 American lives lost due to a hurricane that no one for over a year wanted to acknowledge. We have the president visit and downplay the hurricane like it wasn't a big deal. I don't like to get political on this podcast, and I know everybody's entitled to their opinion and things like that, but there are some things that aren't right, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But so many people for over a year suffered with no electricity, no running water, no gas, And for some, were left completely devastated by being homeless. You know, to this day,